And in addition, it's important that we not just talk about these things and these people on Martin Luther King Day or in February during Black History Month. I want to see us make a commitment to have our history be an ongoing and daily dialogue in our schools, in our churches, in our communities, as well as at home. Dr. Ali and other members of the King Holiday Committee, thank you for inviting me to speak today. It has truly been an honor. Thank you.
Welcome. I'm standing in for Beverly Thomas, who normally does this, and I'll be glad when Beverly gets back. She couldn't be here. But the selection process for Dr. Martin Luther King Leadership Awards is always very difficult and presents a great challenge for the committee, which is comprised of community and religious leaders and former award recipients. Today, we present Dr. Martin Luther King Leadership Awards to individuals who are beating the drum in our community. Like Dr. King, they have given of themselves to make our community a better place in which to live. Would all prior recipients of the Dr. Martin Luther King Drum Major Awards please stand so we might recognize you. Thank you. Today, we present Dr. Martin Luther King Drum Major Awards to 4 individuals and 1 family who are beating their drum in our community. Like Dr. King, they have given of themselves for the betterment of others, for the betterment of our community. Say yes if you want to say that I was a drum major. Say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. Say that I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things will not matter. Oh, you know those are the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. And now, the first award. From the pulpit of Ebenezer Baptist Church on February 4th, 1968, Dr. King delivered his speech, The Drum Major Instinct. In it, he defined greatness this way: if you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. By giving that definition of service, he said, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. Our first drum major is a woman of service. A devoted member of Grace Baptist Church, she has chaired many events on both the local and state levels and is active with the Baptist General State Convention of Illinois State Health Nurses Unit. One of her favorite projects is feeding the homeless every 3rd Sunday at her church, where she is known as Grandma to all. This drum major understands the importance of service and has volunteered for many years on many boards and organizations such as the Central Illinois Agency on Aging, United Mission, African American Hall of Fame Museum, and the NAACP. If you've ever worked with her, you know she's a person who won't take no. When she is working on a project, she puts 100% of herself into it and expects others to do the same. Today, we recognize her contributions and leadership. Our drum major in the category of community service goes to Miss Pearl Taylor.
scholarship. Let's keep them know so they don't fail on you.
Dr. King said that racism is a tenacious evil, but it is not immutable. He stressed the importance of coalitions that address structural changes within our society. A true alliance, he said, is based upon some self-interest of each component group and a common interest into which they emerge. For an alliance to have permanence and loyal commitment from its various elements, each of them must have a goal from which it benefits, and none must have an outlook in basic conflict with others. Our next drum major grew up on a farm near the Mississippi River just south of Quad Cities and has lived in Pekin, Illinois for nearly 20 years. In May 2007, he was elected to the Pekin City Council, and in January 2009, he was appointed mayor following the death of Dave Tebbutt. Recognizing the perceived image of his city as a racist city, he led a council staff retreat that identified this problem as one of the 3 top priorities that needed to be addressed. He insisted that in order to improve its image, the city of Pekin must acknowledge its past and its persistent reputation for intolerance. This past August, the Pekin City Council formed and appointed its first Human Rights Committee, aimed to reduce discrimination and build bridges among diverse groups of people. His passionate address at this year's NAACP Freedom Fund banquet reflected his personal values toward this end and his visions for human rights in the city of Pekin, a step in the right direction. Willing to take a stand in building true alliances, our drum major in the category of race relations goes to Rusty Dunn, Mayor of Pekin, Illinois. Dr. King advised that we must invest our finances in the cause of freedom. Freedom has always been an expensive thing, he said. We must never let it be said that we spent more for the evanescent and ephemeral than for the eternal values of freedom and justice. Our next drum major has spent his life helping to secure and sustain civil rights for blacks in Peoria. He has used his resources in the cause of freedom and equality. He has used his resources in the cause of freedom and equality. A lifetime member and activist of the NAACP, he participated with Mr. John Gwynn in negotiations to get minorities hired at Caterpillar, Silco, the water company, Kroger's, and other establishments. He participated in area sit-ins, lay-ins, and protest marches, and helped organize the Peoria bus boycott when the local bus company refused to hire black drivers. He was arrested and accused of inciting a riot after he protested police abuse of a woman. He was found not guilty, but he was denied the opportunity to vote 1 year after it was falsely alleged that he was not a registered voter. None of the injustices he had to endure stopped him from quietly continuing his nonviolent quest for empowerment, education, and equality for blacks. Today, he generously supports causes for justice and makes a special effort to seek out and patronize African American owned businesses. Now retired, this devoted son, husband, and father spends summers mentoring young males and employing them to do odd jobs around his home, paying them well above the minimum wage. And if you haven't guessed it by now, our drum major in the category of minority business advocacy goes to Mr. Sam Poe.
Receiving this award and recognition is great, but under the leadership of John Quinn Jr. and Don Jackson, and of course, a wife like I haven't
As others have said before me, the education of our children is one of the most important responsibilities that we have as parents, grandparents, teachers, leaders, and members of society. Dr. King insisted that social progress will not occur without educational progress. Our next drum major is a leader in educational progress. She is an elected member of the Peoria Public Schools District 150 Board of Education, an often thankless and unpaid job, for which she has served for more than 8 years. She has advocated for increasing parental involvement and has taken a stand in closing the gap of student achievement, particularly among low-income and minority students. She has persevered through the most difficult school board deliberations, from severe financial conditions to school restructuring and closings. She has sought parity among schools, faculty, and student issues, introduced innovative ideas for systemic change, and stood alone at times on very sensitive and emotionally charged matters. She has sought to put students first and works diligently and passionately to raise the success of eager young minds in Peoria. Today, we salute her tenacity, her leadership, and her service. Our drum major in the category of education leadership goes to Miss Martha Ross. Where? Oh, okay.